What's going on, guys? Thank you again for all of your support as I continue to get some great interviews. Today is at the top of that list. Joining me today is a mixed martial arts legend, an OG of the fight game, Jon Fitch. Jon, thank you so much for making time today. How are things?
I am really good. I'm having a good day.
Awesome, man. That's great to hear. Well, Jon, I'd just like to really just kind of focus and reflect on your career and talk a little bit about the trials and tribulations that you've faced. So, in 2002, you finished up at Purdue University, where you went from being a walk-on to a team captain, and it was there that former Pride fighter Tom Erickson had you meet some MMA guys who kind of drew your interest. How was your crossover solely from focusing on wrestling to mixed martial arts, and when did you know that this was going to be a career path that you were really committed to?
Okay, so I started playing around with MMA my maybe junior year of college. I hadn't really thought about anything with it before, but I was using like kind of the MMA training as like an alternate weight loss um, workout, right? So like it was an opportunity for me to do something that wasn't boring as wrestling. It was different. It was new. I could put my sweats on. I could get a different workout in. It was just different. It was fun. I could sweat. So that kind of drew my interest in just playing around with it. I still wasn't thinking about doing it until probably towards the end of that year. That I injured my knee or whatever, and I had 1 year left to compete in wrestling, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after college. And meeting, Gary Goodrich, Mark Coleman, and Freeman, all of these guys that I've met through Tom, they would just tell stories, and I really liked the idea of their lifestyle. They traveled around and competed, and they got me paid really good money. And that just kind of caught my interest. And then as things progressed going into my senior year, I decided, I think I want to fight after I'm done. It's kind of a big pick me up because I had a plan then after school because I was getting kind of depressed with the whole, oh shit, I spent 5, 6 years at school. Now I've got to be a teacher. I don't really think I want to do this. And it's kind of too late. I'm kind of stuck. So I was lucky to win a scholarship from Purdue University called the Red Mackey Award, and that paid for a year of grad school. So that buffer I had from my senior year till real life, I had a paid year to study basically and coach the wrestling team. I had time to kind of decide, a career path and if this is what I really wanted to do.
Yeah, and then it's only 3 years later you find yourself in the UFC. How were you able to propel yourself and develop so quickly to being at an elite level and a world-class fighter?
Um, Immersion. Immersion. If you want to get good at something, that's what I discovered is you're going to have to immerse yourself in it fully. You can't just dip your toes in. You got to jump in head first and then make that your life. So when, I moved to California, it was my opportunity to do that. I had $3,000 and I was going to give myself 3 years. If I ran out of money or if 3 years passed and nothing had happened with the sport, I would go back and teach and use my degree. I started, I read an article, what's his name? Cale Sanderson, right? And it was a Cale Sanderson, like Sports Illustrated article or something. And, he went 4 years undefeated, college wrestler, Olympic gold medalist. But it talked about, just like what his schedule and what his life was like. And his college life was wrestling. There's a little bit of school. There was a girlfriend around, but like his life was wrestling. That was it. And I was like, fuck, man. Yeah, I work hard during wrestling season and, I lift and stuff, but like I still party, I still drink, I still do all this other stuff. And I started realizing, I was like, fuck, if I really want to do this fighting thing, we need to immerse ourselves and I'll move somewhere where I'm isolated. I'm not around any distractions and I can just train and do nothing else. And that's what I did. I set myself up to only train. So I didn't really have any friends out here. I didn't have any family in California. Like the only socializing I did was at the gym or at my work at the bar, being a doorman. And I figured out a way to live off of $800 a month and all I did was train. That was it. I trained all day long, and then at nighttime, some nights I would go and I would work for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, and like you said, when you immerse yourself and when you do solely focus on one thing, you're able to see the results, and the results showed themselves right away. If we just jump again 3 years ahead, it's August 2008. You'd won 16 straight fights, seven of which are in the UFC to start your career, and you get a title shot against arguably the greatest fighter of all time in George St. Pierre. So you're 6 years into your MMA journey, and you've reached the pinnacle. And although that fight didn't go your way, now are you able to kind of look back at that as being something that is a bigger highlight in your career?
Yeah, fighting for the UFC title, I think that's a really big deal. Not only that, but like just recently, I realized that I've fought for 3 major titles now. No one else has ever done that. Nobody. So I'm the only one who's fought for 3 major titles. I lost UFC title. I won the World Series of Fighting, which later turned into the PFL title, and then I had a draw at 41 years old against Rory McDonald for the Bellator welterweight title. I think that speaks loads and volumes to itself, regardless of what any haters might want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the way that you've been able to establish yourself and be such a high name and such a big name and really rise to the top in all three of those promotions is something that, like you said, I think you touched on it with Ariel Helwani in Fight Week there when you were on his show, and you were just saying that's something that exactly nobody else has done, and that I think that really does speak volume for yourself, speak volume for your career, and for your determination to, no matter what pops up your way, no matter if it is in a different promotion, you're able to really dive in and focus and seek those achievements.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, a lot of hard work, and I'm still debating whether or not to keep doing it.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in a second here. But if we do look again, just 2012, you only managed to have one fight due to injuries, and you're only four years removed from being at the absolute top of the ladder. And prior to your fight with Eric Silva, you openly talked about needing a win, or you'd have to quit training full time and get a job just to pay the bills. You end up winning that fight. You end up getting fight of the night. How big of a night was that for your life and for your career in retrospect?
It was huge. It was really huge. Because I felt like I was backed into a corner. I knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to feed me to this guy. They wanted me to lose, and they wanted to get rid of me. And it was no secret, I think, that they didn't like me. Still don't to this day, don't know why they didn't like me or want me around. They say I'm boring, but at the same time, they'll put me in a main event. in the same sentence, in the same breath, they'll call me boring, no one wants to watch me, and then announce me in a main event fight. So there's some definite bullshit going on there. I think it has more to do with, it was definitely more to do with control. But that was a huge thing, because I just put myself into it. I'd been through some shitty stuff. I'd made some bad choices, fighting injured, and it's definitely one of my career highlights, because I went down to Brazil in that guy's backyard, his home country. The Brazilian fans are notorious for their support of their fighters, cheering "You're gonna die" in Portuguese. And I went into there, and they were doing that with me and saying I'm gonna die in Portuguese. And then come the third round, beginning of the third round, like, I turned the crowd around and they were cheering for me. They were cheering for me to win the fight. So it's one of the coolest career experiences, I think.
Yeah, it was something that, for me, going back and watching over that again, it really did seem like it was somewhat of a career defining moment for you. All the cards are completely stacked against you. Like you said, you're fighting for a promotion that isn't exactly giving you that full push that somebody who, in your position with the record at the time that you had, most guys would be getting. And you did touch on it there, kind of the rocky relationship. And in 2013, your next fight after what seemed like a career and life-changing event, as you've mentioned, you lose to another UFC legend, Damian Maia, and you're suddenly released from the UFC in a just over a month later, you're signed on with World Series of Fighting, like you said, which has turned into PFL. And what was it like going from being a title contender in 2008 to being cut in such a seemingly unfair and undeserving fashion after what was just a single loss?
Yeah, man, I don't even know how to explain the feeling because you're on top of the world. You got everything figured out. You know what's going on, and then this happens, and it's fucked up. It's wrong. Everybody knows it is, but there's like nothing anybody can do. It's kind of like, I don't know. You're getting eaten by the lion, and the rest of the water buffaloes are just standing around watching. It's kind of, I don't know. I think it's one of the reasons why I decided to start with the MMAFA and start with the lawsuit. So I was just like, man, like how many other people have been put in a position like this and everybody turned their back and abandoned them? Because there was plenty of people who could have stood up and said something. You know, guys could have got together, guys could have done something a long time ago. But it didn't happen. So, you know, I kind of took that as a sign that somebody needs to do something. You can either just give up and allow them to win or keep fighting. I could have kept my mouth shut. I could have left the organization, could have fought a few times and then gotten back in, could have licked some boots, and I could still be there today making $200,000 a fight. But I love the sport too much, and I just hate bullies. I just don't think it's okay for that type of stuff to happen, and I don't think it's okay for everybody else just to turn their back and pretend nothing happened.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, there's people who could have stood up. There's people who could have made the fight and made the changes against those things then, or at least made their voices here. And the sad part about it is that we can even look in this past week with some of the cuts that the UFC was making, whether it be Elias Theodorou. That's something that's still going on. If you're not somebody who's
It's gotten worse.
yeah, if you're not somebody who's a quote unquote maybe exciting fighter in the eyes of certain people.
I don't even think it's exciting. I think it's are you controllable? Can they manipulate you? Can they get more money off of you than they're supposed to?
Yeah, and it's those guys who maybe kind of put up a fight against that, or guys who go against the grain. Those are the guys who seemingly get rushed out the door and swept under the rug.
Yeah, and then they'll make adjustments so that no one else can do what that guy did ever again. Their deal with the ESPN deal, their ESPN deal, it's to make sure that they never have another Conor McGregor ever.
That's exactly it. Whenever something gets too good for somebody that is supposed to be underneath of them or supposed to be in their control or in their power, it can sometimes come across as though they make the changes
and make sure that never happens again. Yeah. So like me with a great example is me in the video game situation where I didn't want to sign over my image and likeness for a video game forever for zero money because it wasn't a good deal. I wanted them to put a cap on it in 20 years. I was like, can we just say in 20 years you guys will let me go free and clear? They're like, oh, we can't write special contracts for everybody. Everybody will want a special contract. We can't do that. Bullshit.
Yeah.
I knew that they'd already written special contracts for other guys already. Like, people talk. We already knew. So whatever. But they publicly made an example out of me. Nothing that happened in that 24-hour period needed to be public. They are the ones that went public with it. They're the ones that called the press. They're the ones that put it out. And they did it on purpose because they were trying to scare everybody else. There were a lot of people who weren't signing the agreement. They weren't going to. They weren't that vocally saying anything bad against it because they didn't want to get punished, but they still weren't signing it. When I got fired for not signing it, you can bet your ass within the next week, everybody signed.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There does seem to always be somebody who has to fall for everybody, or there has to be a whipping boy, so to speak. But
yep, and then everybody else falls in line.
yeah, that's exactly it. And then, so we jump ahead one more year, and it's 2014. You had your well publicized positive test for PEDs, which you dealt with, and you moved on, and then by mid 2016, you're the World Series of Fighting welterweight champion. Yet then you do feel like you're maybe at one of the lower points of your life, and we see and we hear it today from fighters like Rose Namajunas that being on top isn't always the dream that you thought it would be. what do you think it was that kind of led you to feeling like this? I know there was a magnitude of things
Uh,
going on in your personal life, but is it something about
yeah, there's a
being
lot
at
of
that?
personal life stuff going on. There was, well, I mean, it was, man, there's so many things involved. It was a high point, but I don't know. It was just, it wasn't very publicized. Like nobody really knew about it. People thought I was retired. I don't know. It's just like there weren't the opportunities I thought that would come from a world title. There weren't a lot of things. Like I didn't feel the joy. It wasn't the same um, type of thing. And I couldn't really figure out at the time what was wrong. There was some relationships issues that had a lot to do with that. But I mean, it's just I don't know, man. Just kind of be out there, be alone, and feel like nobody cares. And it's like, why the fuck am I here if no one gives a shit?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
so you gotta kind of and the thing is, you should be doing it all because you just want to do it. And that's why I did it in the beginning. But like along the way, you start getting responsibilities, you start getting different things pulling on you. You have different reasons for wanting to do it. It's not just because it's fun anymore. It's because you can make money, or because you can buy something, you can do something for your kids.
they add into that, and then what seems like
Yeah.
exactly a dream situation ends up becoming maybe one of the most pressured situations of your life, where you're feeling pulled a million ways, and you're so
Well, I
focused on
mean,
your
it was
fighting
for
career that
me at
it's
that time. It was the opposite. It was like nothing. It was like, oh, I just won a world title, and it was like, like I didn't do any interviews. I didn't get asked to do any appearances. I mean, I don't know, man. It just did not seem like a situation where I won a world title. Like no one gives a shit. I didn't feel like a lot of the people close to me really cared all that much. I don't know. It's a weird situation. Maybe my mindset was just in a bad place because of all the other negative shit going on. It's quite possible. But yeah, I was just feeling pretty empty afterwards.
yeah. And then we can skip ahead a couple years, and you vacate the title, you leave what's now PFL, and you sign on with Bellator. 2019, this year, April 27th, you fought for the title, your third title fight, and like you said, your third major promotion, and it was a very controversial majority draw. And I went back last night and I watched your post fight interview, and just the way that you dealt with it seemed like such a mature, such a humble, somebody who's been here. They've gone through things like this. This is something that is almost water off your back, and in essence, based off of the fact that you've had so many tribulations and so many issues in your life that have maybe appeared to be bigger than simply losing a fight. And like you said, you're now 41 years old, and you said maybe you don't know where you're going, but if I were to kind of put it on to you and do ask you, because I feel like I'm obligated to it, where do you go from here being 41? I know you had talked about making a promises to yourself that if you do ever lose a fight again, that you're gonna hang it up and you're gonna retire, and you joked about it in the post fight that, well, you didn't technically lose, so where is it that you go?
Yeah, I'm at a crossroads. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do. I need to make money. I have kids I have to feed. I'm getting divorced, so I'm losing half of my assets, and I'm going to have to make that up. So I'm not in a position where I can comfortably retire at all. But I don't know if I want to continue to put myself through what we put ourselves through for 60 and 60. I don't know if that's really worth it. That's the thing I don't know right now. I'll take some time to think about it. There's a possibility that Rory doesn't fight in this fight coming up, so I've been asked to be ready in case that does happen. So there may be another fight for me possibly, in a few weeks, but I don't know. But yeah, I just think teaching may be something, but I don't know if I want to do a gym because I live in California, and man, the amount of work and effort you have to put in just to get by, I don't know if that's an approach I want to take. So I've got a number of things I'm working on, but I'm trying to find something I'm passionate about in a way that I was passionate about fighting.
Yeah, and I saw you say you are a well-educated person. You said you've crunched the numbers on opening up a gym, and like you said, being in
Yeah.
San Jose, being in California, to go up against AKA is something that it doesn't exactly make a ton of sense. Like you said, you have amazing relationships at AKA. You know how much work it takes
Well,
and how much of an uphill grind that is.
and it's not even just AKA. I mean, there's I've got a ton of friends in the Bay Area who have gyms, and it's like I'd have to go into competing against those guys directly in order to have a gym. That's one issue, you know. But this mostly, I think the issue is how much time and effort you have to put in just to pay your lease, because the lease is so freaking expensive. You know, you're paying, uh, man, $2,000 a month just to have the building. You're not even talking about the amount of work it's going to take to the the students coming in, and it's just a lot. So I think I'm gearing towards more of a seminar based business model. But you know, there's a lot of other things I'd like to do too. I wouldn't mind trying to get into acting or stunt work, or you know, I've got a podcast, Fitch and Tinkle Smash, everything that we just started recently. A buddy of mine, Chris Tinkle, and you know, if that could take off, that would be awesome. If I could get a few things going on, making a little bit of money in each thing, that would work fine. But yeah, I just got a lot of work to do, and then kind of just see where the dust settles.
Yeah, and you did mention there the seminar thing, and when reading deeper into some things about you this week, I did find something very interesting when you were talking about possibly like an online type setup for a gym where maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're giving demonstrations and teaching through online courses, so to whatever you would call them, courses or classes, and then you do travel around and have those seminars.
Yeah. So what I have now is I have a Patreon, patreon.com/nowfitch, and I have, you know, people support me for $1 a month for my live streams and my blogs, and then I have a $5 tier. My second tier is for instructional videos. So I put up like a weekly video of technique. So I've been doing that almost a year now. But I have that, and that's kind of like the groundwork to kind of feel things out. But I'd like to grow that bigger, and part of it is I have to create the curriculum and you know, the levels and stuff, because Fitch Smash is the system, my style. I just have to package that so that I can sell it, and that's just going to take time, effort, and I don't know if I have the energy to do that and train full time, because it's exhausting training 2 3 times a day.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. Like you said, if you're able to find something where you can have a magnitude or a multitude of different areas of income and things that you are working on when your
Mm-hmm.
sole focus isn't on training, I think that would be something that many people have found success in.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I've discovered is that it's so hard to do anything else and train full time, because like anytime a fight or something pops up, you got to drop everything, and you can't do shit except train. So you're kind of stuck. And you know, even when I was writing my book, like training full time, it took a lot of time out of my efforts. You know, it's hard to do that. It's hard even to sit down and write in between your workouts, because you just want to sleep. So you know, making money from outside businesses has been pretty slow going right now, because it's just I don't feel like I can put the effort in that I need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, we will wrap up with this. I when I thought about getting the opportunity to chat with you, I really did. I wanted to focus on a lot of your history and the ups and downs that you've gone through, because you've documented it all, and it's available for us all to read. And your continued series of books, in which part one is out, Failing Upward, Death by Ego. And I didn't know any of this, that you had been documenting it, that you had a book, until you did appear on Ariel Helwani's MMA show,
Mm-hmm.
your fight week in April. And after reading more about you this week, and knowing that I would have the chance to talk to you, mine is on order, so I cannot wait for it to get here. But what made you want to
Awesome.
share this with the world and express this in this type of fashion?
I mean, I'll have to. I don't know. I just kind of feel like when I started doing this journey, um, I don't know. I felt like it was a big deal. I felt like it was important to write it down and keep track of what was going on. I had spent, and you'll get this when you see the book, but like the first entries in the book were when I was wrestling in college in 2000. I had just finished the season, and it takes me through the summer because I had a really bad season. And our coach gave us a workout journal, right, to help us with accountability and whatever. And I just really fell in love with that process. It kept me accountable. It made me do the work. Kept me from making excuses, right? Because I had to like make confessions in this book every night about my workout and my weight and things like that. And I got a real benefit from that. So when I found the book again right before I was getting ready to leave for California, I was like, hey, I should do this again, and then I should expand it. I studied a lot of history growing up, and I always loved, they have like letters from Civil War soldiers writing back to their wives or whatever. There's all these historical things like that. So I thought like this was going to be a big deal. This fighting thing was going to be huge, and I had all these aspirations, and I thought, I need to write this stuff down for some reason. I need to write all this shit down, and I did. And when I went back to put it all together and kind of like write like a memoir, I decided that I couldn't do it in a way that did the process justice, because there's just a lot of obsessive, really crazy behavior with the training that was completely normal for me, and a lot of other fighters and wrestlers who read it will probably feel the same way. But, I think if an outside person, a lot of it's kind of crazy, the amount of training and sacrifices we make. So I thought it was best to just share everything.
Yeah, and one of the best things that I did read, and it was a quote that you said, and you said, "You can lie to others, but you can't lie to yourself." And to me, I
Yep.
found that to be something that, like you said, it was such an accountable way of holding yourself and keeping yourself on the right track and giving you that opportunity to look back at it. And I found that to be something that was very, very cool to hear. And it touched down with me when I read that. And I can imagine it touched with a lot of people when they heard that. So, uh, do you have a date or when we're going to be able to expect part two of that series?
Oh man, it's going to be a minute because I got distracted. My buddy convinced me that I needed to write a weight cutting book. So I've been really successful my whole career with weight cutting, but since 2016, it's become like automatic. I know exactly what I'm going to weigh from whatever workout, whatever I'm doing, what I'm eating. Like it becomes very predictable, very easy. And my buddy trains some other people in Indiana, and he's like, dude, this is always the hardest part from all of my fighters and all of my people is them making weight. I've had guys who could have been really good, but they couldn't make the weight, and they lost a bunch at that higher weight class, So he's like, dude, you need to write a book, put all this stuff together, and just sell it for a couple bucks. And it sounded like a pretty good idea. So I'm putting together a book now. I'm wrapping up my portion on dinner after the initial weight cut. So I've got a little bit more. And then, I don't know, I'll probably let some people read it or reach out to an editor and see what I can do with that. But it'll probably be, a fairly short read. I'm only at like at 5,000 words right now. So it would probably be, maybe 8,000 when I'm done. But it'll be a quick read. I'll sell it for like $1 or $2. See how that goes. And it'll be written as just like, this is what I do, this is how I do it. And people can, use that however they want to try to make weight themselves or adjust things for themselves.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's another laneway of something that you can that you can share with the people from your experiences. And Jon, I cannot thank you enough for making the time today. Your determination to come out on top and continue to grow from the challenges that you faced throughout your careers, it's nothing short of inspiring. So, Jon Fitch, honestly, I thank you very much for making the time to chat today.
No problem, man. Sorry about starting the conversation late. It was good talking to you.
All good. Thank you very much. That is Jon Fitch, guys.